Hello, I'm Corey Wells, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. Co-president Leslie Collum and I are pleased to welcome you to the Candidate Forums sponsored by the League in partnership with Rutherford County TV. The League believes that candidate forums provide an excellent format for voters to become more familiar with the candidates and their positions. We appreciate the support from Rutherford County government provided by Brian Robertson, CIO at the Office of Information Technology, and Lee Harris at RCTV. They and their staff enable broadcasting and streaming of the forums to reach a much larger number of voters. The League seeks to conduct the forums in a nonpartisan manner. Key participants, especially the moderator, are not publicly aligned with any candidate. We are pleased to have Dr. Laura Blackwell Clark as moderator for the following forum. Dr. Clark is faculty in the Department of Educational Leadership at MTSU, and she is also on the advisory board of the university's American Democracy Project. In the August election, you will be voting for candidates who will serve in a variety of roles. We invited all the candidates running in contested general races to participate. You will hear from the candidates in the races in which the majority of those running were able to participate. We thank you for your attention as you hear these candidates introduce themselves and answer questions about pertinent issues facing Rutherford County. We hope you find the forums useful in deciding the candidates you choose to support. Remember, your vote gives you a prime opportunity to influence how government is conducted in our county. Please make your decision known by voting. Watching world events makes us appreciate our democracy and the vital part citizen participation plays. Your vote counts. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. I'm Laura Clark, and I will serve as moderator for this candidate forum tonight. This forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County and the Rutherford County Office of Information Technology. It is my pleasure to welcome both our audience here at the county courthouse and our viewers at home to our program. We will be hearing remarks tonight from the candidates for the County School Board, Zone 6. These candidates are seeking election to a position that is important to the citizens of Rutherford County. We want to thank them for their gracious acceptance of our invitation to participate in this event. Before introducing the candidates, I would like to outline the procedure for the forum. Each candidate will be asked to make an opening statement and answer the first question in a 2-minute period. When both candidates have completed the opening statement and first question, then several additional questions will be asked. The candidates will respond to each of those questions with a 1-minute response. The candidates will then be allowed 2 minutes to answer the last question and make any closing remarks. And now I will introduce the candidates. Speaking first is Mr. Jeff Jordan. Mr. Jordan, please introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for a position on the Rutherford County School Board in Zone 6. And in this 2-minute response, give us your opening remarks and response to that question.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Jordan, a candidate for the Rutherford County School Board Zone 6. I'm presently serving there. It's made up of commissions, districts 13, 15, and 16. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, of course, for their considerable public service over many, many years, and I do not want to burn up a lot of question and answer time, which is limited. Talking about myself, I'll merely point out that I am 100% invested in public education in Rutherford County and its 43,000 students. I've tried to serve them over a 31-year education career, 10 years on the county commission and the school board, and I've done my best to meet any challenges that have come up, and they are considerable, of course. I'll continue to do that if elected, and I ask for your vote in the early voting period on August 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan.
And now to our second candidate tonight, Mr. David Sevier. Mr. Sevier, please introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for a position on the Rutherford County School Board in Zone 6. And in this 2-minute response, please give us your opening remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Clark, and of course, thank you to the League, and of course, thanks to the Office of Information Technology for sponsoring this forum. I think to answer the question of why I want to be on the board, it would be instructional for me to give you a little information about me. I have a 30-year career in public service, serving in Rutherford County, serving the citizens as a teacher at Riverdale High School, where I doubled the number of students taking and completing physics and introduced curriculum that's still in use today. From there, moved to Blackman High School and opened that school. So I understand the growth, opening that as an assistant principal into the administration world. After that experience, had the opportunity to work in education policy and served a decade at the State Board of Education, where I helped craft policy at the state level, working closely with the General Assembly, working closely with, at that time, 136 different school districts, working closely with the superintendents and directors at that point throughout that entire time, and then have spent the last part of my career working for a not-for-profit charity where I've worked to help oversee professional development in over 1,500 schools with 5,000 teachers and leaders across the South. I've been in the trenches. I'm in the trenches with teachers, with parents, and I'm a parent in the trenches every day with my own child who's in Rutherford County schools. So that maybe gives you an idea of why I'm so excited about this opportunity. I'm taking that entire depth and breadth of experience and want to leverage it back home here in my own community to serve the people of Rutherford County.
Thank you, Mr. Sevier. Now we will go to our second question, and beginning with this question, you will have 1 minute to respond. So we'll begin with Mr. Sevier this time. Mr. Sevier, you've just given us some background about about yourself. But please tell us more about your background if you'd like, but especially how your background uniquely prepares you to serve the people of Rutherford County as a member of the school board.
Thank you. So when you have that breadth of experience working at the local level as a teacher, as an administrator, and then working at the state level, you really do begin to understand the functionality of an education system. I worked directly with the school funding structure of Tennessee for a decade. It is a complex formula, not something that people just on the street generally understand or want to understand. They rely on someone like me to be there to understand, to protect the investment that Rutherford County has made. It's not just that, it's just the intricacies of policy and making sure that we craft policy that benefits students and their families. I have that background, whether it's been at the state level or at the local level, and I believe I can leverage those same skills here for our county.
Thank you, Mr. Sevier. And now to Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan, you've given us some of your background. Please tell us more about your background, but especially tell us how your background uniquely prepares you to serve the people of Rutherford County as a member of the school board.
Yes, thank you. My 31-year teaching career, I think, says a great deal. It's split almost equally as well between elementary school and high school. There was 3 years in there when I was an assistant principal at Laverne High School, and I most definitely did not work for the State Department of Education. The Health and Education Committee on the County Commission, which was in this room, of course, I served on that committee for 8 years. I was chairman for 5 of those years. Also served on the steering committee, and I've been on the school board for the last 2 years, serving where all school board members really serve, the policy committee, work sessions, and also on the facilities committee.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. And now to our next question. As school board members are should be accessible to parents in this district. If a parent in Zone 6 came to you and asked how your election to the school board would impact their child's day-to-day experience at school, how would you answer that, Mr. Jordan?
If we're going to have a question like that, and that is, of course, very, very vague, as they would surely have some reason for calling, but a school board member absolutely must be fair and must be a good listener and must find out the details of if there is, in fact, a problem. They're going to have a state-mandated curriculum, and a teacher, 99% of our teachers are they're quality educated teachers. And I think we have a system that is going to respond to their every need, from nutrition to transportation. And if there was a problem, I'd listen and try to fix it.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Mr. Severe, if a parent in Zone 6 asked you how your election to the school board would impact their child's day-to-day experience at school, how would you answer that?
I would answer that by saying that it's the role of the school board to ensure that the policies that are locally derived that are in place maximize the learning opportunities for their child, whether that be just ensuring that we have teachers who have received appropriate professional development in order to deliver curriculum, or that we're meeting the state mandates regarding physical activity or any of the other number of things. But the bottom line is, it's the response to the parent that's so incredibly important, and being an open door and understanding, as a parent myself, exactly the kind of tone I would want to hear back from someone I was calling if I needed to reach out to my representative. They trust us to be that voice for them, and I want to be that voice.
Thank you, Mr. Severe. And now to our third question, again with a 1-minute response time. Our fourth question. There have been recent controversies over testing and evaluations in our schools. There's much community discussion, much reporting in media. What is the role of the county school board in addressing those controversies?
For Mr. Severe or for myself?
Mr.
Okay.
Severe, please, if you'll respond first.
Absolutely, thank you. So the role of the county school board is to ensure and hold accountable the state to be certain that the processes for testing, which should be limited, by the way, let me go on record as saying I believe in limited student assessment for the sake of a purpose, not for testing for the sake of simply testing, but that there is actual an accountability structure to ensure that it works. I think my greatest disappointment in all of the problems with testing we had over this past year was the lack of a plan B, and the fact that so few school districts banded together to insist from the state that there be a backup plan. It was much too little, much too late, and frankly, our teachers and our children were not able to demonstrate the mastery of learning that we know that they achieved in our school district.
Thank you, Mr. Severe. And now, Mr. Jordan, what is the role of the county school board in addressing the controversies surrounding testing and evaluations in our schools?
Well, first of all, we have to implement, of course, whatever mandate is sent down from the state of Tennessee, and get our teachers, which they do an excellent job, of giving these tests. But the issue is much more than just Tennessee Ready. It's a lot more than just this last series of mistakes that the state made. The truth of the matter is, as I see it, is that we spend way too much time in our classrooms teaching and then testing over the very same thing. And we test and we test and we test and we test. And we have lost a ton of instruction time. We've got 180 days, and we need to use as many of them as possible teaching material.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. And now to our next question.
Let's think now in terms of short-term and long-term. Short-term being immediate and long-term being the bigger picture. So the first question, and we'll begin with Mr. Jordan. What short-term changes in Rutherford County, in the Rutherford County schools, would have the greatest impact on improving county schools, and how could those changes be implemented? Mr. Jordan?
County Commission's not going to like this one. The problem is always funding. It's a problem every day. It's a problem every month. It's a problem every budget year. And I feel like that the truth of the situation is that with what we have gained 3,700 students over the last 4 years. We're going to gain 20,000 over the next 10 to 15 years. All of them are going to have to be taught. It costs $8,000 a day to teach a student. Some of that comes from the state. We need more money, a lot more money from the state. I wish we could get some money to help us with these capital projects as well. But short term and long term, it's still funding.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Mr. Severe, what short-term changes would have the greatest impact on improving county schools, and how could those changes be implemented?
Mr. Jordan is right. Resources are always an important component, but it's also management of growth, and it's also protecting that investment and using those dollars wisely. Money has to come from somewhere, and for it to come directly from the taxpayers through the property tax base, then that we don't want to just go out and quickly kick up a new tax increase for the sake of a tax increase. There are a lot of ways to protect our investment and invest our dollars wisely by investing in teachers, attracting, retaining, and supporting our educators so they can do the job that we need them to do with the students that are coming every day.
Thank you, Mr. Severe. Now, as I said, we were thinking short term then. Now let's zoom out a little bit. Think about bigger picture, long term. What do you feel, Mr. Severe, is the most important issue facing Rutherford County schools in the next 5 years? And how would you address that issue?
Growth. It's that simple. It really is. We are growing, but we're going to have to be very smart about how we grow. We are growing, and we are seeing projections from the Offices of Economic and Community Development that we're talking about a 12 to 15-year trajectory that we're on right now. However, we need to understand at some point growth will taper off. It will flatten out. So just building a bunch of schools is not the answer. We have to be very creative in how we use our existing facilities, thinking in ways that allow us to leverage the resources we already have here in Rutherford County, talking and following best practices from other districts that are already doing incredibly creative things in terms of scheduling and preserving those resources so that we can manage the growth that's incumbent upon us here in Rutherford County.
Thank you, Mr. Severe. And now, Mr. Jordan, thinking in the longer term, in the bigger picture, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Rutherford County schools in the next 5 years? And how would you address that issue?
Well, as I said a minute ago, it's always going to be funding. And over the next 10 years, the Chamber of Commerce and their figures and our figures show that we're going to need, over the next 10 years, 2 new high schools. We've got 1 on the drawing board, and 8 elementary schools. We cannot pay for those strictly by the property tax and the wheel tax. It's not going to happen. And the resources are not there. The money is not there. We're going to need help from the state of Tennessee. And we tax here. We pay a tremendous sales tax. We send it to Nashville, and some of it comes back. They're going to have to send more of it back if they expect these children to be, and us to provide the services that we need to provide.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I'm continuing with some extra questions, and we'll begin this time with Mr. Jordan. School boards have many tasks, many needs. They identify many needs. If all the goals cannot be reached, How should the school board determine its priorities? Mr. Jordan, 1 minute.
Determining priorities is extremely difficult, but what our essential, and this is going to be true no matter who's there, our essential thing that we must do, we've got to give every single youngster a complete and thorough opportunity to succeed, and give them a firm base to stand on and prepare them to be good citizens, good taxpayers, good husbands, wives, career people, whatever. And that's what education does, and that's why we're there. And I think that's by far and away, education is the most important thing that a government does. They do a lot of things, and I've heard it said many times, you can tell what kind of society you've got by how they treat their old people and how they treat their children. And we need to give ours a firm place to stand.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Mr. Sevier, how should a school board determine its priorities if all its goals cannot be reached?
If all the goals cannot be reached, then it is incumbent upon the school board to push down all those priorities and goals that are not associated with student learning and student achievement and student gains. That is absolutely the number one priority. We have to prepare students for the next step, whether that next step is fourth grade after third, whether that next step is moving to middle school, whether that next step is moving to college or career. All of us are going to have to prepare students to be citizens. Teachers do great work here in this county, but we also have to find ways to empower parents to be involved, and any priority that would involve parental engagement, parental involvement, and parental empowerment, I would completely support.
Thank you, Mr. Sevier. And now, this is our final question tonight, and this response, you'll have 2 minutes to respond. And in your response, please address the question as well as give your closing remarks. We'll begin with you, Mr. Sevier. As you're preparing for this election, you're meeting voters, many of whom do not know you, and they've not seen this forum tonight. In 2 minutes, what would you say to someone you've just met to win their vote for the county school board?
So as I've gone around the county, around my zone, and talked to voters door to door, in their living rooms, on their front doorsteps, I've gathered some things together and thought about what are the true building blocks of an excellent school system. And it really boils down to 4 things. It is teachers, recruiting, retaining, and supporting teachers. That has to be a top priority. Teachers cannot do their job, however, unless we empower leaders in those buildings to support them. Our principals, our leaders, our central office personnel know what to do, and we need to give them the tools to empower teachers to do their work. So that's 2 of the 4. The third is we need to generate and roll out world-class curriculum that's on par with any other highest performing district in the nation, whether it be Highland Park in Texas or New Trier in Illinois or Palo Alto in California. These are the world-class schools that we need to be competing with. And all that comes under a base of resources. And we've talked a lot about money tonight, but investment is important. And frankly, Rutherford County, Williamson County, Davidson County, Knox County, Hamilton County, to some extent, have been propping up the rest of the state in terms of school funding for many, many years. And it's time that we protect that investment and keep as many of those tax dollars here in Rutherford County as we can. So that's what I would tell a voter on their doorstep, and that's what I'm telling them every day on their doorstep.
Thank you, Mr. Sevier. Mr. Jordan, speaking to a voter who has never met you, who did not watch the forum tonight, what would you say to them in 2 minutes to win their vote for you for school board?
they had students in the school system, I'd certainly let them know that they could contact any school board member. And after all, I represent a district, but I represent the entire county too. I mean, every school board member does that. I would point out to them that we are extremely efficient in the use of tax dollars, and we want to continue that. Our audit just recently completed is clean. Our 90% of our money for this last budget was spent on May 31st, exactly, perfectly, in other words. And our building program that is going on right now, 6 projects going on or will be very soon. All of that, we are going to be extremely efficient with their tax dollars. We have an administration ratio with students that is one of the best in the state. We're going to use their tax dollars as wisely as we possibly can. This is a very efficient and well-run school system. And I might point out that that's not me. And that's a whole bunch of people, including 6 other school board members and a director. And some of those school board members are here tonight. I want to, I guess, close by thanking the League of Women Voters again and Channel 19 and my friend Brian Robinson for their work, and to ask for the support in the election that is so important for public education for the next 4 years. I'm Jeff Jordan. I'm a classroom teacher for 31 years, a member of the County Commission for 8, the Rutherford County School Board for the last 2. I was recently honored, and boy, it was an honor, by the Rutherford County Education Association with their Friend of Education Award, which I deeply appreciated. I would appreciate your vote during the early voting period and August 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters and Rutherford County, I want to thank the candidates tonight for your participation. I also want to recognize Brian Robertson, Director of the Rutherford County Office of Information Technology, and Lee Harris, Communications Manager, for their cooperation in presenting this program on Governmental Channel 19 and making it available on the county website. This program will also be aired on the Public Access Channel, Educational Resource Channel at MT, which originates at Middle Tennessee State University. I want to encourage all Rutherford County citizens to go and vote. Early voting begins July 15th and goes through July 30th. Election Day is August 4th. That offers us many opportunities to vote. Please exercise this important right to determine who will be your next member of the County School Board in Zone 6. And now may we close with a round of applause for Mr. Jeff Jordan and Mr. David Sevier, candidates for County School Board.